Hi, and welcome to the Quiet Operator podcast. Today, I'm joined by Shaun from Property Portfolio Solutions. Shaun, lovely to have you here.
Lovely to be here, Nathan. How are you, mate?
Very, very good, thank you. Now, Shaun, tell me, so you're involved in the property investment space, but what you do is a little bit different because you deal with people that are often building duplexes and actually constructing and finding the blocks of land. But if you could tell us a little bit more about how you got started and how you ended up here.
Oh, what a long story. Got started as a cabinet maker. Someone I've always been very passionate about property. Got into property development while I was a cabinet maker. Had my own business. I was running a cabinet making business for about 10 years. So I was developing property. And
so you were developing property just as a side thing for yourself at that
stage?
stage?
Yeah, as investing, just as my personal investing along the way. Then I came across the whole property investment space through we were creating blocks. We were developing sites for these guys and had a building company. So we supplied stock to that industry. Then in time, I just morphed into becoming someone who created stock. So house and land packages for marketing groups, people who sell investment stock. And beyond that, just sort of grew into how I am today. And I help people create wealth. It's pretty much what I do. It depends on where people are at, depends on what their needs are, is to what sort of property I put them into. As you're aware, most of my clients I put into duplexes because to me, and I suppose to most people, banks really want equity and income. So you get two rents and an uplift. So you get a profit out of the deal. So that way it creates the opportunity to go to the next deal and the next deal, so on.
Sure. So for those who may not be familiar with what a duplex is, if you'd be able to just sort of explain and how it generally looks.
Well, most of the time it's either a vacant block of land on greenfield, and we just split that up, put a building on where there's two dwellings. So you've got either 3 or 4 bedroom each side. So in all, there could be 6 to 8 bedrooms. Everyone's got an ensuite, and then you just subdivide it. So you separate the title, and in that separation, you create a mini development. So that mini development then creates a profit, an uplift.
Sure. And I presume, though, that's going to mean you're going to have 2 lots of rent, which would mean you'd quite often be getting quite a good rental return in the process as well.
Yeah, that's correct. You get 2 rents. So as you know, as a broker, Nathan, it's banks love to see money coming in.
Sure. No, that's terrific. And so, I mean, we've kind of jumped a few steps, but you were a cabinet maker, you're doing these for yourself, you've gone into business, but going into business, there's a large numbers side of things. So did you originally have a partner in the business when you started, or always been yourself?
In which business?
In the property portfolio solution.
Oh, I did have a partner, Jeff. Jeff and I have been playing in this space for a while. He was my accountant, actually. He's a good bloke, and we just started out knowing each other for years, and I met him through a client, one of his clients, one of my clients. Yvonne introduced us probably about 10 years ago, if not more. And Jeff said to me one day, he said, we're going to be working together in the future. And I went, oh yeah, I didn't really think too much of it. And then I didn't realise that he'd sold his accounting firm to a large firm. And he rang me up and said, well, I got all these clients, let's go make them money. So that's how we sort of got together, created Property Portfolio Solutions. And that's where we are today. He's retired from property now. He's starting to want to do a bit of travelling. So I'm running this show by myself.
Oh, terrific. And so that's been the main source of the original leads that you got? They were coming in through Jeff's former accounting firm, or was it also referrals or any other sources?
It's all referrals. So we deal through people who've either used our service and told their friends, and or brokers, accountants, people like that who've got clients who want to make some money.
Sure. And what does the typical investor that you work with tend to look like? Are they, I'm assuming you'd need quite a large amount of cash to be doing a development. That's the general thought process.
Well, not necessarily. There can be a bit of equity involved. The numbers, you'd probably know what's needed better than me, but usually if you've got usable equity, we're in the range of about 300K and a decent income. It all depends on borrowing capacity. And I usually leave that sort of witchcraft to you, Nathan, to create the amount that the clients can borrow.
Sure. No problem. So really, that's something where you're leaning on the finance professional when you're coming to them. And then, from sort of a start to finish, for people that aren't aware of the process and that haven't been through it, what's a typical start to finish process on an actual development? So if they were to, it's June at the moment. So if they were to start in June of 1 year, would this be done in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, or can there be a few variables?
Well, because it's development, there can be variables, and it depends on each council on how quickly they give approvals. Depends on the style of development as well. If you have to go through a DA process, which is through the council, long drawn out process, that can take 9 months, 6 to 9 months to get an approval. If it's in an area where it can be created in a CDC environment, which is just through a certifier, that can be approved in 3 months, and then the build process usually takes about 12 months. So in and out in between 12 months and 2 years to be finished. Yeah.
Gotcha. And I'm assuming that usually as a result of the development, then whereas houses might grow at a few percent or sometimes have a little bit of negative growth, you'd actually be effectively manufacturing equity through that process?
Yeah, that's correct. With a development, as you do, you split the block. You got one block of land. You create it essentially to 2 homes. There is a profit portion in that. Yeah.
Terrific. And do you ever get involved in knocking down existing dwellings, or is it always, or generally just a blank bit of land to begin with?
No, we do all that sort of stuff. Knock down rebuilds in certain areas in Sydney. That's some big profits involved in that. We've done a couple in and around the Hunter region, Walls End, a few other areas that are closer to the cities where there's older houses. We do that all the time.
I mean, so I'm thinking it sounds like you've dealt with clients Australia-wide or dealing with different parts of the country. Every council is different in every single jurisdiction. So, I mean, is it yourself that just knows all of the ins and outs of this, or have you got a team that you lean on as well?
Well, it's handy of my past of knowing, I've done a fair bit of development experience myself, but always rely on a good team because I can't be the be-all and end-all. Anyone who says they are is really just trying to sell you things, but we rely on good people, good brokers, good finance people, make a big difference in the banking side, really good builders, town planners, they make a big difference in the construction and the approval side. So it's really finding the right experts. The biggest value I probably add is not only making sure the clients looked after, but is my network, the people I know that help the process out.
And so how do you qualify, say, a builder, for example, to determine that that's going to be someone that's suitable for your network?
Usually through experience and knowing people. I know a lot of people in the industry and we share information of who's a good builder and who's to avoid. Going through a home, because I'm a tradie myself, I kind of know the difference between a good builder and a bad builder. Finding out timelines of construction is also a good way. But sometimes you just roll the dice. But knowing what I know, it's because I've been doing it for so long, and that's why you hire or you deal with experts, is to give you a better chance of success, really.
Sure, because I can imagine, I mean, in a lot of ways, knocking down a house or buying a bit of vacant land and then building 2 properties on it, a lot of people might be listening to this and thinking, well, I could do that. I can go directly to ABC Builders. Why would I need someone to step in there as well? But it's really the experience and it's the fact of knowing what to look for. Is that one of the main differences to working with you?
Well, there is, but the builders I use also, they're wholesale builders. And if you go out to do a deal as a person, say if I'm just Joe Smith, and I go out to do a building somewhere, I buy a block of land with all the good intentions, and I get a builder in to come build a property. A lot of times they talk about a turnkey and they don't finish the job, and what they'll do is in the contracts they'll leave things out, not intentionally, but they don't do a full turnkey product, and they'll leave you with things to do at the end. And by the end of it, it'll end up costing you more than dealing with us, because my builders, I might do in a year, I might do 50 builds with someone, or 20 builds, or with one client. With one builder, and that builder will make sure that my clients get looked after, because if they don't look after my clients, then I won't go back.
Mm-hmm.
So they miss out. Instead of missing out on a possible, one build with someone, they're possibly missing out on 50. So what they do is they look after people like myself. Most times that works out really well that way, looking after the client, and it's the wholesale rate as well. So you get the whole thing done. The package is all sorted. You don't have to worry about landscaping or curtains or anything like that. The whole thing's sorted out up front.
Sure. So, and what are some of the things that you've seen where people have gone directly and then later they've sort of shown you what they've got? What are some strange things you've seen left out of a build contract before?
The best one, the worst one for people is they'll give you a quote and they go, "I just got to go do the soil test," and they use that as a real excuse to up the price for foundation work and things like that. And they pick a price and double it. That's even just at the start. Also, they leave things out like landscaping, letterboxes, floor coverings, window coverings, white goods, ovens, dishwashers, all that sort of stuff. So often you're left with a property that you have to finish off. And that's not what investors want. Investors just want to go do whatever they do for a job. So, whatever you do for a living, you go do that, and you use people like us to take care of to take care of your investments, pretty much.
Mm. Yeah, because I mean, if you've got a situation where the property's not rent ready, especially on a duplex, you could be losing $1,500 a week for every week that this property.
And by the time you go out and source the people to finish it off, you're talking months. By the time they get the job, you find the person, you get the quotes, you get the job completed, you could be out by months. So you add that up, and it's just getting the job done right the first time around is always a good idea.
Sure. And is your model often geared towards getting people to do one and hold it, or is there a transactional nature where they'll build, they'll make some money out of it, and they may use that money to, say, pay off debt or put towards savings? Is there a typical client outcome that you're looking for, or does it vary on the client?
Oh, obviously varies on the client. I've got clients who just want to build a duplex, sell them, take the profit, build another duplex, and they do that as a business. So they do that within a company structure, and they create a business like that within the company structure. So we just, every time they finish a build, they sell it off, they give me a call, do another one, and that's how they roll. Me personally, for long-term asset growth, and depends on the client really, the younger they are, the more I encourage to hold for as long as possible, because as you know, capitalising growth is, it creates wealth at the back end. That old saying, when's the best time to buy property? And it's 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. So, that 20 years ago property, if you look back in most areas, properties have gone up, 20, 30 times in 20 years. So, probably that's a bit of an exaggeration. They've probably gone up 4 times, 3 or 4 times in that time. So it's
but with leverage, it's probably gone up 20 times on what you've originally put on it.
Leverage is the other part of it. So, people sell, they have to pay the tax on the profit, and then whatever they do with the money, they do with the money. But if you hold a property, you leave the tax for another day, and that helps along the way, and it just grows with time. If property in a good area goes up on average somewhere between 5 and 7% per annum, the capitalisation of that, creates wealth over 10, 20 years. It's brilliant. And it gets paid for by the renter, by your tenant.
Yeah, no, it's scary what happens to even a few $100,000 at a 5 to 7% return when you look at it over a 20-year period, because you're getting the double every sort of 10 to 14 year period that they've got. In terms of how you run the business yourself. So you mentioned that you had Jeff there, the accountant that was the business partner that was handling. So how do you because I'm just imagining you're dealing with councils of, yes, you've got a team that are supporting, but it seems like you're one guy that's doing quite a lot of things at once. How do you decompress and handle all of the things when there's this onslaught of work?
Just decompartmentalise it, really. Just do what I have to do. And I've got, like I said, I've got a good people I work with. So once you've got a team you trust, it just makes everything really easy. It's not right. It's not like I'm filling out the paperwork for all the approvals. That's handled by other people. That's not handled by me. I just take care of clients. It's pretty much my role, and whatever I need to do that, and that changes from day to day. I'm either chasing up a builder or a certifier or town planners, agents, whatever it be. You just do what you have to do in the moment.
Sure.
Try not to overthink things, mate.
No, it's good. It's rare that you see a business owner that looks so calm and relaxed.
Well, when you've got enough grey hair like I have, mate, you've seen a few things. There's nothing really to really stress about. Everything's fixable. I've been doing this a long time.
I'm just wondering if this relaxation is to do with the fact that you've moved out of a capital city.
That's a big help, by the way. You move out of a capital city into a beautiful place like Lennox Head. It's a big change, and that's a very positive one.
Because I'm assuming today, with internet and telephones, then there's really very limited need for you to meet clients face to face. But do you go out onto sites that you check out, or are you able to do and source the land all remotely using trusted agents and partners?
Mainly remotely with the properties, but I do miss the face to face. But a lot of people now just want to do stuff like this. They just want to talk on a camera, which is awesome, by the way. Technology's made things so much simpler. But I love the days of just sitting in front of people, having a chat, having a coffee or a lunch or a dinner or whatever. But people just haven't got the time for that anymore. So they prefer the convenience of this. So it takes away the need, like you're saying, of being in a capital city where the big population is, so you can, try and gain a lot of clientele in there. It just doesn't matter anymore. We have no tyranny of distance anymore.
Yeah. Because I remember there was a time when I used to run a brokerage where I would be based in Melbourne and also in Perth. And when I had clients to see, I would take an aeroplane for 3.5 or 4 hours from one side of Australia to the other, see my appointments, spend 24 hours in one of the two cities and fly back. From a practical point of view, explaining that to someone that was 10 years old now... they think you were crazy, right? They're like, why didn't you use Zoom?
What's wrong with Zoom? Yeah, exactly. But I do miss the face to face. I like connection. That's one of the things I enjoy about my job, is getting to know people and just having that relationship. A lot of my clients, I've got a few clients that are up to their 10th, 11th property with me, and they just go from one to the next, and it's just really cool to watch their lives change over time. So, but this online stuff all the time, it's good to catch up for dinner every day. Sometimes I'll just go to Sydney or wherever most of my clients are and have a client dinner, invite everyone along. I went to a sports evening. A friend of mine's trains fighters, and I booked a table at a fight night and invited some clients along. It's just just an excuse to have a bit of fun and connect with people.
Sure. And I guess at the same time, that actually allows you to form a deeper bond with your clients and learn more than just simply cutting to the chase in the business. So
and that's what I like. I like the personal. I like people. I'm a bit of a people person more than I am a technology person. So, yeah, that's definitely one of my values.
Sure. Well, hey, you just got to come to capital cities more often, mate.
I try and avoid them now. I think once you live in a place like this, it's nice and quiet, and it's just makes life a little more pleasant than the hustle bustle.
When you were starting out, so we've touched on the Zoom side of things. So you've been in the business now for about 6 to 8 years.
Before that, I had the business where I was creating stock for groups. So I've probably been in the investment side of things about 15 years longer, 16 years maybe. So yeah, we actually my previous company, PHG, it was we were the first ones to create packages for duplexes for mum and dad. Duplexes, we didn't create duplexes. Duplexes have been around for God knows how long, but I don't think any of the investment partners I don't think any of them sold them because no one packaged them up because no one understood them. So we put something together, and that's gone now. As you know, it's just gangbusters. There's duplexes, people pushing duplexes everywhere, which is really cool. I like the idea of investors having options that actually create wealth, not just sit as an anchor around their neck. Like a lot of people would just normally go into apartments or anything like that, and it just sometimes can take a really, really long time to create any real meaningful change.
And I mean, I can tell, and from our previous conversations, how important it is for you that when your clients are getting something, they're not buying from you, they're actually getting something that's going to give them long-term wealth and change their life. You touched on, some people that have had pretty life-changing experiences. What's, one that sort of immediately pops into your head of a big lifestyle change that's happened as a result of investing through your packages?
Well, there was one of my favourite clients. He started out, he had his own home. He was single, and had a good business. He was earning some pretty good money, which helped me. Right, makes the job a lot easier because there's ways to move forward. He came to us in a pretty good position. This was a few booms ago, property uplifts booms ago, and I put him into these duplexes. There was these two blocks side by side. So we packaged them up as two sets of duplexes, so really 4 properties in the end. And he bought them both. He was in a really good position that he could do that. And at the time, it was about a $700,000 package each side. These days, unheard of. Things are just so much more expensive. But we thought he'd get around 180,000 uplift on each property. So working out to be 360 grand out of the 2. Mm-hmm. By the time it finished off and got built, in that time we had a property boom. So it wasn't the 360 grand anymore. The boom went so big that he ended up with $500,000 each site. So it ended up being $1 million uplift in 2 deals, in his first 2 deals. So then from there we could do quadplexes and all sorts. We just, we could go nuts after that. So it was that was a lot of fun. So his whole goal is to be able to have the capacity to retire. So have enough income rolling in that he can retire. So over the last probably 6 years, we've created probably 3-4 million for him in profit and equity. And yeah, he's got enough income coming in to be able to roll off into the sunset if he wants. But he's got a very good business, but it's up to him. Whether he steps back a bit and employs people, which, sometimes that's even just as big a gift, or to sell the business and go do something less strenuous. He's only young. He's got a long way to go before, I think, buying a caravan, but it's a big change for him anyway.
Sure. I think in some ways you've ruined him because when you make $1 million off your first property transaction, how are you going to ever be happy?
Mate, I don't know how many times I said to him, mate, by the way, this won't happen every time you get that right. He goes, yeah, I understand. I said, no, do you really understand? So I'm very realistic. I like to manage expectations for clients because at the end of the day, some people, like you say, have an expectation. They've got to get $500,000 out of every deal, and it's just not real. It's just not real. They're the really good stories. They're the ones we like to talk about, so it helps. But but at the end of the day, even if you got you got a $700,000 deal, at most, what do you need? About 150 to do that? 150 of your own money. Mm-hmm. So we're looking at more than, even with my figures, we're looking at more than doubling his investment, which is, the 150, we were looking at about 180. So he would have done very, very well regardless. And, so you go from 150,000 of your own money to $500,000 profit, clear profit. It's not bad.
Yeah, no, that's pretty successful. And, how about For your own investing, I know you've spoken about the fact that you've done quite a bit of investing. Do you still focus on duplex style investments for yourself, or is there a particular type of property that you like to invest in?
I'm a bit silly in my own stuff. I like to push my own boundaries. So I've got student accommodation in Gatton, 104 room. That came up as an option. There was a block of land. There's a university, so I wanted to push myself to do something different. But genuinely, if I was just thinking of the money, I'd just do duplexes because there's so many in that same amount of time with the same amount of money that we spent creating these things, the outcome would have been a lot better. But I'm also playing with renewables and all sorts of stuff in development at the moment. So but I still believe duplexes are the way to go. I'm living in a duplex I built for myself, so. So yeah, in all, yeah, I love it. I think that's just the way to go. And you as a broker, ex-broker, you'd be you'd know banks love a bit of equity and a bit of income.
Yeah, I mean, equity and income. What else can you be looking for if you're a bank? Just to go back to that for a second, because you've raised a really interesting point that I think often when we've got all of the information, and for example, you go duplexes, that's just a solid money spinner. But when you do it for a period of time, it actually becomes boring.
That's right. Yeah.
And as entrepreneurs, we like to challenge ourselves and we put it through. And it's interesting that you're able to reflect on it and go, well, I didn't actually take my own advice there.
No, that's right. I wouldn't do what I do. I wouldn't put a client to, if that makes sense for myself, because I'm challenging myself for personal reasons. And like you say, for me, I would have been a part of, I don't know, probably 500, 600 duplex pairs in my time, if not more. And it's like you say, it's a pretty cookie cutter for me, but I've got a process I've managed over many years that's, tweak it when I need to or keep the stuff that's good the same. But it's always about the spreadsheet when it comes to client relationships. And yes, sometimes I like to challenge myself for myself. But yeah, it's a different way of thinking, that's for sure.
Sure, but no, it sounds like it's an important one. If just going back to an earlier point we're asking in terms of why someone needs to work with a professional, and you've really explained it, but I guess what are some of the things which someone may have already done a construction on a single dwelling. For example, they may have built their own home or they may have built an investment property. And so they've done a construction loan before, they've dealt with vacant land. What are a couple of things that might happen from a building or permit side of things when you move to a duplex? Is it the council could be asking more difficult questions, or is there anything in particular?
Usually we do the homework. For my clients, we do the homework up front. We know what to look for. And I use professionals to look over things before clients even get a contract to look at. So if you're doing it yourself, it depends on the council, where the area. There's so many variables that's why I don't rely on myself to know everything, because every council's different, every state's different. But I definitely use the experts in the area. If someone wants to do something for themselves, a spreadsheet wins. I've bought blocks off people that couldn't make the figures work to do a duplex on their block when they're trying to do it themselves. But yet I've made clients like that story before about those two blocks side by side. A guy had these two blocks. He couldn't make them work to make a profit out of duplexes on them. My client was going to get a minimum of 180,000 each block. This guy couldn't do it simply because he didn't have the network and he didn't know how to do it efficiently. And my client ended up getting $1 million out of the two blocks profit. So it's a tough one for people to go ahead and do things, because I heard so many horror stories where people try and do it themselves and it doesn't work out because of one reason or another. They put too much themselves in it instead of doing what the market wants. A lot of times people, they might put a purple wall up because they like purple, but it limits your market. There's so many different reasons why to use a professional, because it takes a different set of eyes on your investment to give you the ideas on how to create wealth. Whether it's me or someone else, it doesn't matter. As long as you got a professional that cares for your outcome, 9 times out of 10, they've seen a lot of what's right and what's wrong, and they can help you manage through that. Doing it yourself, I'd never recommend that unless you've got experience with it. That's not just me trying to get work. By all means, use whoever you want, but it's just a bit challenging to, I've got 30 odd years experience in property. It's just challenging to make that into a 5-minute video.
Yeah, I can imagine, because it just goes back to the point that there's things that you won't know till you've actually encountered them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So it's hard to put all that into words. Really, it's a long drawn out process, and I suppose that's why I never went into educating, because by the time I taught someone how to do what I know, I could have done it, 100 times over. And a lot of times people like to get information, but then they do nothing with it, which that's not my value.
Yours is about really the action side of things and ensuring that something happens.
Yeah, that's right. And it's also getting the best thing for the person. There's no use me spending time or charging people to teach them stuff if they're not going to actually do anything with it. Less than 5% of people who go learn how to do property investment actually go do anything with it. It's just crazy numbers, and sometimes people spend a lot of money getting that education, and sometimes they get caught up in the in all the information, and it creates more confusion than it does a direction.
So, I mean, really what you're saying is having someone that's been through that, had that lived experience, but you're actually going to take action, is a lot better than spending thousands and thousands of dollars in getting courses. And even at the point where they've learnt all of the information, until they've actually gone through a development project. I mean, I've been through just even a subdivision on a single property, and I looked at the numbers and I was quoted a figure, and I was quoted a time frame. This is sort of a Perth property, and we were told sort of 6 to 8 months, and now we're in month 16 to 18.
Yeah, that's. Look, I've had people quote things to me before, builders or anything of the like, and just even bringing up things they're not putting in the quotes and having an understanding.
And Shaun, just going back to what it's been like actually running a business yourself. So with your type of business where you've got clients coming in, I guess, sporadically, how are you able to handle things like cash flow and that side of things as a business owner?
I think it's the secret to it is through developing and all sort of stuff I've done in the past, I've had different things in my life where I've earned a lot of money, and then there's been droughts, and I think early on I learned how to live well beneath my means and make sure there's always rainy day money. I think a lot of people in business, where they get a bit excited when they start earning some good money and they want to go buy toys, or I'm not interested in toys. I've got I'm a bit old school. If I can't afford it, I don't buy it. I will always only pay cash for toys. So if I ever buy a sports car, there's that's cash. I don't like going into debt for silly things, which in turn is why I don't have toys, because every time I get enough money for a toy, I put it into a property. So, but in business, cash flow, only way to even it out really is have enough in the bank, and or create a way of evening the flow of clients. So if you look after a client, say you get one client at the start, you look after them well enough, and they're happy and they're successful in whatever you're doing. It doesn't matter whether it's property, whatever we do, or you're selling them coffee. Mm-hmm. If you own a coffee shop and you get someone who walks in, each individual is a prospective lifetime client. If you treat them well with respect and honour, and you give them a good product, then they'll come back and they'll tell their friends. So as long as you look after every person like they could be 20 people, then that's how important a client is to me. And that's how I see it in business. Is I like referrals because it's just easy to talk to people who you don't have to get past the trust barrier.
Sure.
And in that, the people who I do trust, I take that really personally. And if people in business would learn to be that way, whether you're selling coffee or no matter what you're doing, have that personal approach to make sure you're at service to the client. I think most people who are in that mindset won't have so many ups and downs simply because the client they got on day one will come back for starters, then they'll create more clients. So then you've got 2 clients. 2 clients create 4 clients. And 4 clients create 8 clients. And before you know it, there aren't any of this. This gets evened out. But it just takes time. I think being client-centric is in business to me. Obviously, you've got to make money and you've got to make sure all the accounting's done and the spreadsheet works. But people in business need to really be client-centric as far as I'm concerned. The client's boss. I don't allow them to make the decisions that are going to affect them negatively. I won't play that. Like, I've had clients come to me and say, "Oh, I want an apartment in Brisbane." Like, I go, "No, well, I'm not your man. I could sell you one, but then I wouldn't sleep, so I won't do it." Same as there's a whole heap of different things that you've got to make sure the client's looked after, because it's my reputation for one, and 2, my values need to be met to help people. That's what I'm here for.
I think that's terrific advice, mate, because you're really just saying look after the clients, and then as a result, everything else looks after itself. And I can see the reason that you've been able to build such a referral-based business. And I don't think you've never spent a dollar even on marketing at all to get to that stage.
Well, we did spend money on marketing, but we were terrible at it. You'll see lots of stuff, property portfolio. Jeff, he's an accountant. He's a great guy. Him and I had a crack, and neither of us are really good at it, but we're just having a bit of fun with it. But we didn't get there was hardly anything came out of that because we're just no good at the marketing stuff. But yeah, I'm just really good at looking after people, because that's what my first intention is. And if someone comes to me as a client and there's no lining up between what I can deliver, what I believe I can deliver to make the money, and what their expectations are, then I'm happy to pass them on. It's not, sometimes it's the clients you don't have, the ones you don't take on board, is just as important as the ones you do want to take on board. Because it's the 80-20 rule, some clients will take up 80% of your time, where, other clients you can build rapport with, and it's just an easy process.
Sure. No, it makes complete and total sense. Ultimately, you want to be working with people that are great to work with and get them great outcomes.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why referrals are really good, because, I get along with my clients and they'll send me more people like them. A very wise mentor once told me, ask your clients for referrals, because if you like those clients, they hang out with people like them. So then you just create a really cool community.
No, that's terrific. And I mean, maybe just to sort of finish it up, where do you see the sort of the direction of property investment as a whole? Do you think that it's going to be subdued long term, or perhaps sort of short term, or you haven't really seen that filtering through yet because you're dealing with newer properties?
Anyone who says they know exactly what's going to happen in the future has a crystal ball that I've never seen that works. But if you look at all the things that I like to look at, which is, do we need more properties in this country? Yes, we do. We need heaps. We're so far behind the population's need that, to me, there's only one way. We either flood the market with property, or the simple adage that if there's one item that 20 people want, that one item's worth a lot of money. So it'll go up in value. So currently, even though there's a political environment that may try and create property going down in value, I can't see that happening, because there's more of a need for it. We haven't got enough widgets for the clients who want to buy them. It's really just that simple. Everyone tries to make it a huge, technical thing, but I can only see property going up, and I don't know where it's going to end because we keep importing people. We're a population, massive population growth, and we're just not building enough properties for them to live in. Mm-hmm. So until we catch up, I can only see property going up. I can only see rents going up. I can see it just being harder and harder for people, poor people, to get out of their situation, which is not good, because when I was young, I bought my first house at $84,000, and I wasn't earning a great deal of money, and I could do that by myself, off my own back. I didn't need to be married or have a partner. Didn't need two incomes. And then, you think about the old glory days. How does that help in the future? Well, it just means people probably got to be a little bit smarter. If they want to live in the big capitals where the property values are really high, maybe they need to invest somewhere else, to what they can afford. But I don't know if that answers your question. But I don't.
No, it is. It's a really interesting point. It does just it does actually bring up one more question, which is in terms of, would you see that then often investing in maybe a less expensive area, or if someone wasn't able to buy their own home in the area, is a way to go? A little bit like that gentleman you told earlier that made the $1 million of capital growth. Perhaps maybe not at that level, but is that a viable option?
Well, for instance, in Sydney, I just moved out of Sydney, so I'll talk from that standpoint because I understand it a bit better. Melbourne's a lot cheaper, but I believe the yields are similar, where they're very low yield. So if you buy something worth $2 million, it'll rent out for like $1,000 a week or something like that in Sydney.
Generally, on a property, you'll find about 3.5% in Melbourne and Sydney as a whole.
Yes. So in that case, financially, in the way of a spreadsheet, by the time you save up to buy something, this is Sydney, by the way, because the values are so high, by the time you save up to get enough to have that property, you've gone through a few market increases and in time. But if you invest outside and you can grow that wealth, then you can eventually come back in. So yeah, I'd suggest, if you can't afford to buy where you want to live, rent where you want to live and invest elsewhere. But obviously the best way is to own your own home, because everyone wants to live the dream. And I believe that's probably your principal place of residence. To me, is probably one of your better investments if you treat it that way. But always invest outside as well, because we're all wanting to retire at 60, 65, but we're now living to 100. So there's a lot of years of being retired, so you need a lot of money to make sure that life's good. That's for sure. It's a different kettle of fish to when people retired at 60 and died at 70. It's just not happening now.
There's a lot more runway to go. Shaun, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom on this topic from property and duplexes. You've got the white beard. It's you come across as a very wise person.
That's just old.
Very much appreciate your time today, mate. That's Shaun from Property Portfolio Solutions.
Thanks, Nathan.